Last session of the day, and I would like to welcome Trond back on stage. But then we also have two persons on link. It's Magnus Karlsson, CFO Sweden for Sweco, and also Susanne Larsson, Group CFO and EVP IT Mölnlycke. Funny enough, they're both operating in Sweden, Susanne and Magnus, but Norway is here representing themselves on stage.
It's a little bit of shame.
Yeah.
It's
Hello,
okay.
everyone. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and we're happy that you could join us as well, of course. But let's just go around a quick round of your key roles so that the audience here knows from which background you will be reflecting on the upcoming discussions. Susanne, as a CFO and EVP in Mölnlycke, what is your key role?
So my day-to-day role is to be responsible for finance, IT, for indirect procurement, and also our shared service center. So that's where I spend the majority of my time. Until recently, also strategy and M&A was part of my organization. But as we are accelerating that, we have given that a separate direct reporting line into our CEO. So that's what I do every day.
And turning to you, Trond?
Yeah, the traditional CFO setup, and also run the group strategy, responsible for the bank and also the investment division.
And last but not least, Magnus.
I'm responsible for the finance within Sweco Sweden, and is operating also the traditional parts with strategy, procurement, shared service center, and controlling. So that is my responsibility.
Just small responsibilities you all have up on your tables. But let's start us off by discussing how recent shifts in global business dynamics has transformed the role of CFOs and what learnings have the last few years given you. If we start with you, Susanne, what would you say upon that question?
Well, I think we have faced a lot of changes recently. I joined Mölnlycke 1st of March 2020, and that is when COVID came. So that was a super awkward way of joining a company. But I think just with some retrospect on that, what we have done since then is that we abandoned the annual budget process. That seemed to be ridiculously wrong. We turned into rolling forecasts. And I think what we also had to put a lot of emphasis and effort into is that our incentive structures were tied to the budget. And not having an annual budget means that you have to also change that procedure. So I actually think that has been more of a challenge for us internally to adopt to than to actually abandon the budget itself. But I also think that we have learned to work much more agile when it comes to scenario planning, trying to look at more kind of leading indicators from time to time to be able to kind of take fast decisions. And then I also think that during these days, I think it has been important for a super long time to be close to our business, and that we in our finance organization are true business partners. And I think that has put a lot of emphasis into us actually being very, very close to our respective businesses. So we dare to challenge, not only support and do what our colleagues ask us to do and the normal finance stuff, but actually be very close to all these things around kind of updates, and also we know our business and that we can kind of really engage and challenge our business colleagues out there. And that I think we have done for a long time, but we have certainly done it even more than what we used to do, and that has been much more of an important role to play for us during these last couple of years.
And what's your take on this, Trond?
I think I can agree to some of the comments from Susanne, and I think the uncertainty and the complexity and the changes we have seen with wars and pandemic, and you can say that planning isn't that important because nobody could foresee them, but we need to adapt to them, and I think that's key. And the other big factor for us being a capital-intensive business, the surprise for a lot of people that capital actually has a cost suddenly appeared with the higher interest rates. And I think we have a 10-year period that nobody have really known that capital actually is costing. So for us, that's been a big change in how we need to look at the balance sheet as well as the profit and loss and that the key drivers for the value creation of our business.
And do you had anything to add to that, Magnus?
No, I totally agree with my colleagues, and I think that the CFO role has become more interesting and exciting during these times, and has expanded in terms of responsibility. It's not only about financial; it's about the planning, the strategic part, sustainability on top of that. So it's more of the total company. But then I also think that we have become more of advisors as well, in compared to a couple of years ago. So otherwise, I fully agree with my colleagues.
Well, sticking to you, Magnus, could you elaborate on the expanded responsibilities that you're touching upon that a modern CFO is taking beyond traditional finance management?
Yeah, I think the role has gone from, so to say, the number guy to the company guy and the business guy, and that of course includes the financial management as a basic for the operation, but includes strategic planning, risk management, and also recent now with the sustainability initiatives, and that is of course. Something where I think that finance is a good contributor to drive the innovation and manage these risks across the company. So I think definitely it's going in the right direction in that area.
And what do you say about this, Trond?
I agree that this strategic part of our role is just increasing, and I think we used to be I think I've been a CFO now for 18 years. It used to be sort of a no role. So every initiative was shut down by the CFO, and that was sort of the role of being the negative guy. I think today it's more about how do we, from our function and our capabilities, enable solutions. So instead of saying no, we can say, well, we can do it, but that means that we need to prioritize different, or we need to expand in this area. And that's a much more... it's much more motivating and given much more energy into the role, which I think is super important and super interesting.
And Susanne, in what ways would you say that technology advancements influence your approach to leadership and strategy as a CFO? Is digital even a new thing to consider, or is it more of a core strategic enabler in your view?
I think a couple of different things. If I look back to earlier days, some 10, 15 years ago, I think we tried to look into, trying to make some fixed cost into variable, for instance. So when it comes to shared services as well as IT, I think many of us worked on outsourcing a lot of that. And I think at least we have focused a lot on the opposite the last couple of years, with really insourcing shared services, insourcing a lot of competence in our IT. And I think that is actually because it becomes critical enablers of supporting business and do that in an agile manner. So it's more a matter of being capable and, future-proofing our own colleagues and ourselves, and not being as dependent to third parties, where salary arbitrage typically was a reason for change previously. So I think technology has enabled us to insource things. We were pretty late in Mölnlycke building shared services, so we took the decision to have it in-house, but we even put the master hub in Sweden. And instead of working, as I said, on the salary arbitrage, we have, of course, worked a lot with what you talked about previously, RPA, and trying to use a lot of these kind of automation tools that exist today, and by that not being as people dependent, and try to look for that. So I think a lot about that. Continuing on digital, and IT is also then part of my responsibility. We have even split our organization, our IT organization, into two pieces. One which is what we call the more traditional IT, that secures infrastructure, security, and our internal operation and efficiencies. While Mölnlycke also look at digital as a business, part of our business model, enabling that and digital ecosystem of healthcare. So that also means that we need to work with business development together with our business colleagues to enable those ecosystems. So again, that is a completely, let's call it, new IT capability that we need to kind of experiment in together with business. So there is certainly a lot of digital things. Lately, of course, with AI, I think we are really trying to figure out what use cases will really make the true difference for us. So I think we are also having a lot of workshops around that, trying to kind of figure out where, now I would say we are experimenting, but also trying to figure out where is the biggest gain for us in the CFO function, but equally much in Mölnlycke as an organization.
And Trond, what role do CFOs play in promoting a culture of sustainability within their organizations?
I think it's an important role because it is a topic that will just increase in the years to come. And I think our ability to see the whole business, and we often have connections in all business areas and manage a complete set of business areas. We are together with the CEO, the only common factor that will be meeting people across. So and I think it's really down to for us also to move it away from reporting to what are we actually going to do and how are we actually going to do sustainable solutions in our operations more than the reporting side of it. And I think that's where we can play a big role, I think.
And passing on the same question to you, Magnus.
No, I totally agree what Trond was saying, and I think I think finance has a lot of advantages with the way of structure data, how to report data, make it comparable, and have that experience, and also put the status to the sustainability data is one part that I think will also strengthen the focus on sustainability and the financial reporting. So in the end, I see this also as a business opportunity where the CFO function could contribute back to the business.
Thank you so much. And I would love to have your opinion on that as well, Susanne.
Yeah, no, so sustainability is super important. So although sustainability resides in a separate function, we are, of course, collaborating super much, not the least with the annual report that is coming to an end now. But the CSRD reporting, we are used to manage reporting and deadlines in finance. So that is something we will take on or are taking on then. So we are doing that in conjunction and collaboration with our sustainability organization. But for our function then, we happen to go out in the market for financing when it comes to bond. So of course for us a sustainability linked bond is high on the agenda. So what do we need to have in place? And now we have science-based targets approved. So how can we use that and actually potentially go out and do more of a green bond? So that's super important. We have looked into our investment policy because for us, of course, and many other companies, there is a lot around how can we actually work differently and what investments do we need to make to actually become better from a CO2 reduction. So we have added KPIs around the sustainability parts to better assess not only from the traditional financial measures but also with some kind of new green perspective, so we can look upon those in combination. And last but not least, having IT also. There is a lot of things that happen, and how can we drive sustainable IT then, helping us to not store too much and release data, being smart in all of that to take down energy consumption from all that data exchange that is continuing all the time. So there is certainly a lot of interesting sustainability aspects into also the CFO function.
And turning to you, Trond, what skills have you found most valuable in managing upwards and ensuring the board's expectations are met or even exceeded?
Well, I think managing upwards, whether it's the board or investors, is about trust. And if you want to build trust, you need to be proactive, you need to be transparent, and you need to make sure that you focus on the right things. The board agenda will pile up over the next years with everything that sort of comes of regulatory, CSRD or whatever. So in our role, make sure that we are transparent. If something is bad, tell it's bad, and then break down complexity and saying, well, these are the key drivers. This is where you need to have focus. That's if you build that trust, you get freedom to operate. And I think that's the key part of our role.
And Magnus, same question goes out for you.
Yeah, I fully agree with Trond on this as well, that trust is the basic, but I also like to strengthen a little bit the effective communication and really work on the stakeholder management with the clear and transparent reporting or financial insights, and also be the partner to the board in showing the risks and propose how to manage the risk, etc. So really about being open and opening the communication with the board. That's important.
Susanne, what would you say is different being a CFO today compared to some 5 or 10 years ago?
I actually think the speed of change is probably what is the most the most obvious one. I think we have talked about digitalization, we talked about sustainability, and I think since that change is happening so rapidly, it's a matter of how do we make sure that we are experimenting and trying these things out and don't remain on the sideline. So I think it's this constant eagerness to dare to try. So I think a lot for us is about creating trust in our own organization. So we have a willingness to dare to try and fail and learn fast then. So I think we have launched new values in our company, and one of that is being bold, and that is really to encourage our organization to do much more of experimentation and daring to think differently, because that is, I think, a competitive advantage as we move forward, not just to stay with the old, but actually trying to take in new considerations, test them out. Some might not be good at all, and then you learn that fast and put them aside then. But I think that is super important, and by that also making sure that we stay tuned when it comes to the capabilities of our people, trying really to endorse and enforce that.
Thank you so much. And this might be hard, Trond, but could you give us a short answer of what advice you would give an aspiring CFO?
Well, I think to learn the functional side from a business thought process more than just the function side. Understand strategy, finance, and how it works together. And the other side, which I think is underestimated in our role, is the importance of people management. How to be a good leader for your people? How do you build a team? How do you make sure that they are aligned towards the strategic goals we have? So the human side of it, I think, will be much more important also because the generations that come into work now have different expectations than the guys we managed 10 years ago. So don't underestimate the leadership and the people side of our role.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Trond, and thank you so much, Susanne and Magnus, for joining us today. I would love to talk more with you, but for now, thank you so much, and I'll see you later on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.